This is Meet the Movie Press. It's the 21st of June 2018. Coming up on the show today, Zemeckis, The Witches remake, Star Wars spin-offs on hold, and remake Last Jedi, ? And we forgot about Gotti, and they're really, really pissed. Plus the box office, Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, and the week's big trailers. Stay tuned.
Welcome to Popcorn Talk, featuring movie discussion, news, and interviews. Popcorn Talk. We talk movies. And now, here's Popcorn Talk's Meet the Movie Press.
Like I said, this is Meet the Movie Press. It is June the 21st, 2018. My name is Simon Thompson. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at ShowbizSimon. There's also a Facebook page. This is Simon Thompson. And joining me as usual now, Scott and Demetri. Demetri, who are you? Where can we find you?
Demetri Panos. Hello, movie fans. Hey, folks.
Hello.
Good to see everybody
Good to be back again this week.
It's fantastic to be back. Thank you for having me. I also do Anatomy of a Movie, also part of the Popcorn Talk Network. And then
it's easy for you to say.
Not really. If you can tell, my tongue just gets in the way.
What are you covering this week?
This week we are doing Incredibles 2 and Tag.
Movies.
Yeah. Two fun movies. Two fun movies to talk about. So very much looking forward to that. I think they're also going to do Adrift. Some people are going to talk a little bit about Adrift. So I ran out of time, and I went Adrift, and I couldn't get to.
If I was to grade that movie, I'd give it a C.
Okay, so
come on, it's not a dick joke. We're taking a step up here. But those are coming. There will be dick jokes, I can guarantee. There will be dick jokes, which is actually a new Coen Brothers movie. Hello, Scott. Who are you?
Good.
Where
How
can
are
we
you?
find you? I'm good, man.
So I'm on Instagram. I am on Twitter, the other Scott M, because there's too many effing Scotts in this industry. Mm-hmm. So that's why.
First
I'm
name
the other
effing, last name Scott.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's what
That's
my
a good one.
username should be.
Effing Scott.
You can find me on Sundays at Black Hollywood Live, right here at AfterBuzz. And I do a show called Black Tomatoes with Carla Renata. And then you can go to weliveentertainment.com to read my stuff, my written stuff.
Yeah, and for those who care, you can support me on Twitter at DMovies. I forgot to put that in. At DMovies17.
At D-Movies?
At DMovies
All right.
1701.
I googled D movies. A lot of the stuff that came up wasn't what I was looking for.
Sorry.
And also,
you have to put the 1701.
okay. And it's also it's June the 22nd. Apparently, time moved forwards.
Yes, there you go.
Yeah.
I'm living in Thursday.
It's okay.
But it was lovely.
It was.
Which is good.
It was.
Okay, we've got a lot to get through. As usual this week, a huge amount to get through. Let's kick off with Robert Zemeckis going to direct the Witches remake. Obviously, a lot of us grew up with the movie, which obviously Angelica Huston, iconic role in that movie. This one is apparently going to be more based on the book than that movie, which is going to be quite nice. So, let's talk about that. We talked about Arachnophobia last week, another great film from around that time.
Yep.
Getting a remake, getting an update. What do you think about this one, and what do you think about Bob Zemeckis being in the director's chair?
I am excited. If this is news of a remake that I actually can get behind, because it's Bob Zemeckis, first of all. It's Guillermo del Toro, second of all.
Yeah.
And the material with the two of them together, I feel perfect combo. I'm very short and sweet.
Yeah, I agree. I couldn't agree more. And if you're going to remake something, that's a perfect movie, because I don't think that movie ever got its due. When it was released. And not only it was darker than what audiences of that time were a little bit used to. But Angelica Houston, you had a great cast, lovable kids to watch throughout and to root for.
Yeah.
And Zemeckis is going to do this. This is fine. Zemeckis actually has had a big week news-wise.
Really good.
Yeah, I mean, he's had The Witches. That new trailer of his movie also came out this
We're going to be talking about that later, folks. Later.
So, but, yeah.
That's good. That's what we call a throw forward. in the industry.
I'm throwing it. But he's had a good week. Thank God. He's worthy.
And we mentioned Guillermo del Toro. Obviously, he's going to be producing this, which is great. Now, Bob Zemeckis, I'm a really big fan of a lot of his fantasy work. The stuff that is sort of less based in reality, less true story stuff. I've been itching for him to do something like this for quite a while. I didn't know it was going to be this particular project, but it's a really good feel for me. But I think the original, as you were saying, it kind of came at a really interesting time in cinema where it was darker, and occasionally we would get movies that were open to the family audience, but they had that little bit of adult material. Two that sort of come to mind are Return to Oz, Dark Crystal was another one. Even Labyrinth, to a certain extent, was one. It was kind of. And audiences, sometimes they got on board and appreciated it,
sometimes they didn't,
and
yeah.
sometimes they didn't. It's always, actually, Labyrinth was not a massive success. That only spent 1 week in the box office top 10 and then dropped out. I was having a conversation with Brian
This movie
Henson
did
about that
really
recently.
bad at the box office, only 15 million.
Yeah, it really was not a hit. But over the years, it's gained this status. So I think it's really it's a really good choice for director.
Yes,
really good choice for a producer. Guillermo certainly in the industry is very much. I mean, I've never considered him to really be off the boil, but certainly he's back in favor in the industry in a big way. Troll Hunters on Netflix doing phenomenally well. Obviously, fresh off Shape of Water. So I'm really interested to see. Yes, Anthony.
Simon, sorry.
No, that's fine.
Real quick, I just wanted to mention that he's also Docter was also co-producing alongside with Alfonso Cuarón. So it's both of them.
Yeah, not to mention that Fox Searchlight deal, which hopefully is still going on.
It's going to turn up some really interesting stuff.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this to me was when I saw it. Often, sometimes your heart sinks a little bit when you see a remake or a reboot. But this is something I'm very interested in.
But can I? One thing too. Remember last week we were talking about arachnophobia.
Yeah.
Oh yes.
Remade, right?
Yes.
This falls under that category because it wasn't a huge success. It has a cult of personality of its own, much like arachnophobia did. It wasn't a huge success. So if you're gonna remake a movie, revitalize something that came out.
I see where you're coming from.
Don't remake a classic. Remake something that people know. Dahl is certainly known as a literary for kids. He's written all these great books. So I think this is a perfect remake because it'll only give resurgence and maybe get people to watch the original and stuff. And I like that.
I also think, I just want to throw this out there, that I think the budget for this needs to be in check.
Yes.
Like, I don't think this needs to be like $100 million budget. It needs to be like a $30 million budget movie.
Which was going to get to sort of where I was going to go next, which is we can now do that in this space. We've seen a lot of creativity within that space. It's a very hot space for a lot of studios. It's relatively low risk, which is great. And I think audiences, especially younger audiences, obviously growing up in the 80s, we saw some pretty fucked up shit in movies and stuff. But I think now younger audiences are able to handle some of this more mature content, slightly darker and slightly more cerebral, because they're I just think they've developed. Times have changed. So I think that it's a really good time to do it. Let's check in on the chat. Mike is saying yas, which I assume is hello.
Yas, queen.
Yas, queen. I said I'd never do that again. I did that on the show a couple of months ago, and oops, fuck it, there it was. Hugh Jennings saying nice here in London. Give my love to London. Give it a good old kiss on the ass from me. Miles saying it's the 22nd of June. Yes, I know, I'm a moron. That's true. Sky saying hola, so hola to all of us.
Hello.
Jack Miller saying, good to see Scott and Dimitri. Are you going to be permanent editions now? Well, there may be an announcement on that very, very soon. A morning from Zayas Bilu. Morning, fam. I'm at work. Morning, fam. God, that really doesn't suit me saying that. So I won't be in the chat for too long. Zayas, you need to get your shit done. Don't worry about it. Totally understand. Good morning. Jurassic World 2 was very disappointing. We will be talking about that later in the show. Do you see what I did there? That's a throw forward.
Yeah,
We had two of them in one within 10 minutes of each other.
Yeah, so lots of stuff
Almost
going in the chat
professional.
already.
Stars.
Let's see what people are saying about Witches. Sky Patterson saying Bob Zemeckis. Love that director's work. Can't wait to see what he does with The Witches. Hopefully after The Witches, maybe a comic book film or not. Yes, Bob has discussed comic book movies over the last couple of years. There have been a number of rumors, but I know he has had conversations about those. So that would not surprise me.
You know what would be a great Bob Zemeckis remake? It would be a remake of one of his old movies, Used Cars. One of the underrated comedies.
That is an underappreciated comedy.
I love that
Seriously.
movie. Bring Kurt Russell back. Make a sequel.
Scott Boswell we're talking about darker movies sort of being remade and from that time in the 70s and 80s. Does anyone remember Disney's The Black Hole?
Absolutely.
Mostly forgotten, but has possibilities. Scott, I 100% agree with you in that. There has been talk about remaking Black Hole quite a few times over the years. I think, and we'll get to this in just a second, Disney might be deciding what they decide to remake and how they place that with certain universes they've got at the moment. But I would very much be open to seeing that. I love that movie.
I have another great Disney suggestion for a Disney remake.
Okay.
Yeah.
Last Jedi?
Which is what we're going to talk about next. That was nicely done. That's called a seg. That's called a segue.
I like that.
Okay, let's talk about this. We cannot. There's a lot of Star Wars stuff this week. Let's first of all talk about the future Star Wars story spin-offs are on hold at Lucasfilm. They want to concentrate on the main Star
now
Wars
there
movies.
seems to be like this up and down. Like they're not. I hope they are, but they're not. I don't know.
Obviously, this is a story that came from Frosty at Collider this week.
Yes.
So credit where credit's due. Frosty, does his due diligence and he doesn't put stuff out there that is
Sure.
not researched.
Right.
Not researched. So he does his groundwork. From what I'm hearing, they are on hold, but this is certainly not something that is dead. Disney are doing a reset. They're looking at it again. I think they're obviously with Solo for numerous reasons, which we've discussed and some which other people have discussed. It didn't land particularly well. But I don't think we've seen the last of Star Wars spin-offs.
No.
Just purely because they're very lucrative. What I think we could see with Star Wars spin-offs is them not being theatrical, and with the launch of the streaming service, perhaps see those move to something like a streaming service, budgets adjusted, star levels adjusted, that kind of thing. Potentially we could see that happening in the future. I don't think they're dead at Disney, but it'd be very interesting to see. Certainly they are doing a reset on that. When you saw this news this week, were you surprised by that at all? What were your feelings?
I was probably one of the few people who are happy by this news.
Okay.
What my hope is for this franchise, just the Star Wars universe in general, is that they become more spaced out, that they feel like event movies again.
Yep.
As opposed to something that's built up for an entire 6 months to a year, and then you just grow tired of it. Because the one thing that I think really hurts the Star Wars universe is the fans, and the fans have gotten a lot of shit over the last couple of weeks with all their mean-spirited comments on Twitter and Instagram attacking stars and whatnot. But I also think that they're the worst because they also promote the hell out of something and they freaking get you so sick about hearing of it. Like you're so sick of hearing of Star Wars 6 months before the fucking movie comes out that by the time it comes out, I feel like that level of energy is already gone.
And obviously, we just recently had the double tap where 6 months before we just had a Star Wars movie, which people were still talking about as the home entertainment release was coming out, and then we had Solo. So it was a smash.
It's really difficult. It's a really difficult thing right now because I feel like they bought this franchise, they spent so much money for it, that they're trying to milk it for all it's worth.
And they're still investing in it because obviously with Star Wars Land, if anything, they're doubling down. They're not pulling back. So.
And I think what they're worried about with that, I'm glad you brought that up because with this not having as much, box office gold behind it, it's not turning out as much money even overseas. I think they're worried about the effects that it's going to have on the theme park. If they keep milking this, is people just going to get tired of it?
It's not going to affect the theme park
no.
one iota. I mean, in fact, right now, Disney is trying to figure out the best way to do their crowd control for next year. They're revamping a lot of their annual passes and the blockout dates that they have. I couldn't agree with you more. I think that a lot of this has come about, well, first and foremost by the fans. And you can't chastise all of the fans. There are really great pure Star Wars fans out there, right?
Yeah.
But it's these angry fans who are entitled to believe that Star Wars is made for and only them.
Yeah.
Period. And if they don't get what they like, they cry, they whine, they hate. They hate really loud, and they hate. It's such vitriol. I've never read such things, and they are the worst. They are the worst thing for Star Wars. They're keeping it from going forward. I think that it's a good idea to stop these. You have to remember something else too. The stories that they're coming out with, back in the 70s and into the 80s, going into the 90s, these were stories that were mostly relegated to novels, comic book type stories. They were great if you were a reader because you got great backstory. They were fun to read. And now that there's this whole change, a lot of this is, well, not a lot of it, it is all canon. So I liked Solo. I went in with misgivings. I ended up really enjoying it. I think the movie, as time goes on, is going to be more appreciated. But I think it's the fans who have stopped this. There's got to come to a point where, like a Kathleen Kennedy, a decision has to be made and go, you know what? Let's take a break. And you're right. Star Wars, there was something special in the 70s and in the 80s because there was no news. There was nobody, like you didn't have social media where people were screaming out loud and telling people. This is the other thing, too, when we talk about this Last Jedi thing. There are websites that say 5 things that need to happen in the next Star Wars movie. And it's like, no, they don't need to happen.
I think you also brought up a very interesting point that I want to chime in on, and I think we talked about this on a previous show, is that the direction that Disney's going with Star Wars, the Star Wars universe, I feel is very lazy. And I'm just going to be honest and say it, because there was so many books, like you were mentioning, and storylines that they can follow, but they decided not to go that route. And I feel like that's the route they should have went, because these are stories that people don't know that much about and could build new fans, as opposed to banking on nostalgia and going back to people like us who clearly, we love our classics, we love the originals. And the fans nowadays, like the younger fans, probably want to see more of this new franchise that's coming out with these new actors, because they're not as attached to the original trilogy as we were. Like, yeah, sure, they were shared and they watched them when they were kids. But they want something new to latch onto, something that feels fresh and relevant.
Absolutely.
And then the new storylines, if they went back to all of this comics and all these books, there's so much that they could do.
But some of them were silly.
Oh,
I mean, to have Jason Solo.
How much fun would it be if they made like an Ant-Man Star Wars type movie where it was just a fun comedy, as opposed to...
And I think this is what things like the Disney streaming service are going to open up. It does mean that it's going to allow all of these things to coexist, and there can be TV shows, there can be feature movie, there can be event movies for like the holidays, there can be companion movies. So you release a big, a movie in theaters, but then also in the holidays you have something that is a companion piece that then ends up on the streaming service. So there are lots of things that they can do. With regards to the theme parks, just going back very briefly to that, there are many properties that Cars is a really good example. Cars was not a massive box office hit. It was a hit. It wasn't a massive box office hit. It certainly was one that was derided by critics, and the franchise itself didn't continue to do massively well. However, that has sold more merchandise than any other franchise that Disney has had. It beats Toy Story,
which is amazing to me,
which is amazing. So it doesn't necessarily mean that if the films don't financially hit the mark at the box office with audiences, then when you create that, if the world you create is enjoyable enough or encompassing enough, then you will be... I mean, I guarantee that if you got people to name 5 characters from Star Wars and 5 characters from Cars, the average person on the street would be able to name 5 people from Star Wars, would be able to name 2, maybe, from Cars. And yet, hugely popular, big merchandise strand. As far as revenue goes, it's a definite winner for Disney.
I'm so glad you brought that up. Sorry.
But also, I mean, I just want to go to the fan thing. The thing is, a lot of fans forget. And this is, again, with not just Star Wars, but also things like we could look at Harry Potter, we can look at, say, Doctor Who.
Oh, yeah.
The thing is that these movies, obviously, they want to try and please the fans as much as possible, but these movies are not made for the fans. These are made for the general audience, the general guy on the street, or the woman on the street, or the child on the street, who just wants to go, they like Star Wars, they like with an L, don't love, they like it, and they enjoy going to watch a Star Wars movie because it's about the experience, because they like the characters. They're not as deeply ingratiated to this, and they will bring more money, and they're the ones that will probably come back and stay with the franchise and feel less aggrieved in either way. They will feel less polarized by any of this. So they will go like, that was okay, that wasn't very good, but are less likely to be long-term affected by a franchise. If they find there's an episode that they don't particularly like, or a spin-off they don't particularly like, they will come back to it. And I think it's a slightly different thing. So it does upset me when there is this, and we talked about this when we were having breakfast earlier, that there appears to be this element of entitlement and ownership.
Oh, yeah.
You can be a fan of something, but you do not own that. It's like if you're a fan of an actor, sometimes people go up to talent and it's like, I made you who you are. No, bitch. Their work, their hard fucking work. They appreciate your financial support, but it was them doing countless days, the parents taking them around the country. You don't own, these are not monkeys on strings. This is not a fucking circus. You don't own these franchises. You don't own these actors, characters, directors. And also, how dare you turn around to some of the greatest filmmakers ever and tell them they're fucking it up?
Yeah.
You know,
Just out of a purely professional respect. You can not like a movie, but don't do that.
It's awful. It's terrible, and it's unwarranted, and it's so unnecessary.
It
and
is,
then,
yeah.
just go back to that point. Like the websites, you got to stop with the 5 things that need to be answered in the next blah blah movie.
It's clickbait. Just a movie.
But it's clickbait. You see, that's the world that journalism has come to right now. Is that
But you call that clickbait?
journalism?
But wait a minute, though. But do you call that clickbait? Because I actually think that these websites take themselves seriously. People will read the article, and
exactly.
I don't even click on it because who do you get? No, you don't get to tell me what I think.
But everyone wants that.
Movies.
Everyone wants that. That's the problem nowadays. Is that no one wants to go into anything blind. No one wants to have fun. Everyone wants everything spoiled. Yeah, I know.
But they'll complain about
they'll complain
spoilers
about it. I know. It makes no
opens.
freaking sense.
Okay, we've got some stuff to talk about in the chat, so just very quick points from both of you.
You were talking about Star Wars Land, okay?
Yeah.
In Cars Land, what they did at California
That's
Adventure
amazing.
is truly amazing. And I can honestly say I'm an annual pass holder for Disney, okay?
Yeah.
I go to Disney a lot. That Radiator Spring Racers, literally, I mean, it's gone from being 3 to 4 hour wait in line to like an hour and a half. I mean, there's still a long wait to get onto that ride. There's what they did on Route 66, crazy. Now, Star Wars Land is going to be a little bit different. You know, there's only going to be 2 rides, okay? But they were going to make it
an experience.
It's going to be an experience.
Yeah.
They're going to make it very interactive.
Yes.
So once you do the Millennium Falcon run, you're going to be like RFD'd, and the characters will talk to you depending on how you did on that run. So if you go into a cantina or into a gift shop, it is going to be an experience. They're touting it already. Star Tours, the ride, ends at Star Wars Land.
Yeah.
At whatever that planet is. I forget what it is. But you know, they're doing a good job. The crowd control is going to be insane over there.
Yes, it is.
I can't wait.
But I mean, you know, looking at that and then looking at Harry Potter. I mean, I enjoy the Harry Potter movies. I wouldn't consider myself to be a Harry Potter diehard fan. But you know what? When I'm there, I have a lovely time, and it's nice to be in that world. And I have my butterbeer, and I chill out, and I'll grab a beer, I'll sit on the patio, and just soak it all in, and then I'll leave. And then that's fine. But there will be kids and adults, and they'll be all wearing their cloaks, and they got their wands, and I'm really fucking happy for them.
That's great, though.
That's brilliant. But don't piss your pants over it. It's really not that important. You were going to make a point.
No, I just love what you said earlier about the merchandising. Like, how much does the pullback of Star Wars mean because this merchandise didn't sell well? I mean, you really have to look at that.
But that's happened with previous Star Wars movies as well, you know?
Right. The first 3 episodes, is that the ones
Yeah,
you're
I mean, but
talking about?
even between when the original Star Wars movies or even the prequels ended and the new one started, literally, you could not, and there's a great little documentary about Star Wars toys on Netflix at the moment, and they couldn't give this shit away.
I know.
They could not give this shit away. And do you know what? The hardcore fans, they weren't buying that stuff either. So let's not pretend that it's like, oh, well, hell or high water, I'm going to support this with all the money I can give it. There are hardcore fans who are fair weather financiers too.
Yes.
Sure.
But, you know, at the end of the day, I mean, this whole thing this week about, and I did, full disclosure, I asked them to come on the show this week. I didn't get a response because I wanted to talk to them about it. I'm genuinely curious. I think it's a crazy idea, but I'm genuinely curious about their mindset behind it. The idea of this fan bid to remake The Last Jedi. It's just not going to happen. You just have to move on. And
It's
seriously,
not gonna happen.
but also, even if
Move
you
on.
remade The Last Jedi still exists.
Right.
But Disney aren't going to give you an IP to make, and you're not going to have. And I would genuinely love to know who these producers are, who are happy to do it and put this money up. I'd genuinely love to know what they've done previously, what their experience is, because this whole thing about, well, not everybody will like the final result. Well, isn't that the same fucking thing with The Last Jedi?
Right.
Some people, I really enjoyed The Last Jedi. I know a lot of people that really hated The Last Jedi. I know a lot of people that were like meh about The Last Jedi. So that's not going to change.
Nope.
You're not going to make any movie that everybody loves and everybody's happy with, because that's not how it works. It's not a burger.
No,
You can't get it your way. You can't go, can I get mine without mayo? I don't like lettuce. Can I have extra tomato or gherkins? It's seriously, everybody needs to just move past this stuff about, I'm not happy with this film. Sometimes life sucks. But to be honest with you, if The Last Jedi, not being to your likest, is the biggest fucking deal in your life, then you've got a you've got bigger problems. You've got bigger problems, but you've got a pretty good life, because there could be a lot worse things wrong with that.
And you're insulting so many people, and you're insulting me, because actually, I liked Last Jedi, right?
Yeah.
I really disliked
But even if
Rogue
I
One.
didn't like it, I wouldn't go remake it.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't like Superfly recently. I thought that was horribly misjudged, but I'm not saying, do it again!
Right.
Make it again, Hollywood! I didn't like it!
I didn't like it. You gotta redo it. Yeah. It's like, but the other thing too is, like, somebody was making fun of this on Twitter and goes, "Wow, I got producers in line and investors. We're gonna remake Friday the 13th. Jason Takes Manhattan, and this time he's really gonna take over Manhattan." And I'm like, okay, this I'm behind.
Yeah,
I'm all for that.
Yeah, I mean, I mean no disrespect to these people. I understand. They feel very, very strongly about this, but it's not going to happen. I guarantee you will not get. I will guarantee you will not get in that room with Disney. And if you are people who have no previous experience of making a movie, then Disney, they're not going to give you the IP. Disney had to fight really hard, even now, working in parks and stuff like that, with Lucasfilm, so that every little piece of that world is done right to their liking.
Yeah.
And if it isn't, you do it again. And if it isn't, you do it again. And if it still isn't, they do it again until it's exactly right. They're not going to let a bunch of fans walk in and go, I want to take this IP. You're not going to have $200 million, but I'm going to make this. It's just simply realistically not going to happen.
Yeah, and I will
happily eat my hat if that does happen. I will more than happily eat my hat. I have a hat in my bag. But I'm just like, that's not going to happen. Come on, everybody.
Today,
I have a Star Wars Last Jedi.
It's just crazy.
That he could eat. Because that would be fun. No, it's not going to happen, but it's an insult. It's an insult to people who like the movie. And
it's an insult to Star Wars.
It really is.
And people like Mark Hamill think you're a dick.
Yeah, but
Mark Hamill's one of the nicest people out there. When he turns around and goes, dick move.
Yeah.
And I saw that on their website. There's a comment about his thoughts on the story, and I have personally had long conversations with Mark Hamill about various Star Wars movies over the years, even between Star Wars and now when he's back in the series, and around the release of The Last Jedi, and loads of other times. Mark Hamill's cool with it.
Yeah. He has to be.
He's cool with it. Do you know what? Sometimes you're an actor and your character doesn't exactly go the way that you want it to go. You would make little changes. But that's sometimes just the way it is. I don't know a single director who looks at every single one of those movies and go, nailed that. Every single director would look at a piece of their work and go, do you know what? I might change that in hindsight, or perhaps that could have been slightly different, or and whether you're a composer, whether you're a producer, whether you're an editor, you always look at that work and you're self-critical and you see potentially things you could have. But you know what? You can't bend time.
No.
And that's the film you put out there. That's the one we've got.
Deal with it.
Yeah.
And and then we have the last of the Skywalker saga coming out next year, and that's why I think they should just take a break.
Yes. I think we should take a break from Star Wars for a while. But I think every year or every 2 years for a film in any franchise is absolutely fine. Give it a chance to breathe.
Yes.
Let fans and audiences just get ready for the next one. Put that one to bed and do the next one. Let's just do that. Talking of which, let's put that to bed. A lot of people in the chat talking about stuff that we've covered on the show today. Sky Patterson saying Bob Zemeckis, love that director's work, can't wait to see what he does with The Witches. Hopefully after The Witches, maybe a comic book film, or we've already touched on that one. We were talking about Bob Zemeckis earlier, and we were talking about the fact that he was mentioned in the world of superhero movies. He was, of course, mentioned in the same breath as Flashpoint a while ago. Sky Patterson down for whatever Zemeckis does. Yeah, absolutely. Didn't Jeremy Piven remake Used Cards, says Jack Dennis. I'm not aware of that. I'm not aware of him doing that. But I might look into that. I'd be certainly interested to see it. Miles saying that honestly not interested in a Boba Fett or Obi-Wan. I want to see Ryan's trilogy in the Game of Thrones guys films. Yeah. I believe this was Anthony. Pod Racing Star Wars standalone. Do you know what? Effectively, a Star Wars Fast and Furious.
There
and
you
if
go.
you put that on
There
like
you
Disney
go.
streaming, that could be something that's a crowd pleaser. Sky talking about The Witches. Sky Patterson would like to see Kate Blanchett, Alison Brie, or Angelina Jolie cast in the Angelica Houston role in The Witches. I think that would be really cool.
Yep.
3 really good suggestions there.
Absolutely. They are.
And going on to the Star Wars thing, then Harris saying the fandom of Star Wars is so divided and toxic, an Obi-Wan movie might win back the fans. I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know. Personally, I preferred Rogue One to Solo, even though I really enjoyed Solo, and that's because it was new characters.
I agree.
Tying into the story.
and
I think that was the winning formula
My biggest
there.
problem with Rogue One is how it shit all over 40 years of continuity. And that bothers me.
Do you know what? It's just a movie.
You're the one.
I am the one,
yeah.
but we'll go into it later.
Yeah.
But
Zayas on the Witches saying would like a younger Witches on Aubrey Plaza. Evan Rachel Wood,
Not
Emma
Aubrey
Stone,
Plaza.
and Tessa Thompson.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe.
Maybe.
And then Harris talks about something that we're going to get onto
Oh,
in a bit,
yeah.
Ninja Turtles.
Oh, yeah.
Sky saying, think putting the Star Wars standalone films on hold is actually a good thing.
Yes.
I agree. And I love Star Wars and the standalone films, but it's time for new leadership and a new plan and new storytellers. I think that's fair as well.
Yes.
And Zeno Hour saying, Collider reported they're on hold at the moment. Outlets misquoted them and saying that they're cancelled. Indeed, you are correct. Collider did say that they're on hold, and that's what we've been discussing. Now, the internet is bashing Collider for reporting something they didn't report.
They are.
Of course, but
Of
that's
course.
and unfortunately in an industry at the moment where there appears to be a lot of cut and paste stuff with some movie websites. One site publishes it, another site just copies and pastes and then does a little rewrite and puts it up. Also, you have an element of kind of what was actually said gets diluted and changed ever so slightly.
Fake news.
Fake news.
news.
Zeno, I think putting the spin-offs on hold is very good. They should be focusing on new and different timelines and expanding the universe.
Yes.
Also,
Thank
different
you
genres
for
like
backing
comedy
me up.
are exactly what you said. So I think there's a lot of stuff going on in the chat. If you watch the show and you want to go back and rewatch it, you can actually go back and look at the chat again, which is really, really handy now. So if you want to sort of chat to people on that, that's great.
Oh, wow.
Feel free to comment after the show as well in the comment section of the video. That's always appreciated. Okay, let's move on to some other stuff. Let's very quickly talk about changes at Disney and Pixar this week. Obviously, John Lasseter is going to be leaving the picture later this year. Jennifer Lee and Pete Docter are going to replace John. And obviously, it's going to be a different dynamic because it's going to be 2 people then sharing that role. And Pete obviously has had phenomenal success with his movies at Pixar.
You think?
Some of the best work, some of the best work that Disney Pixar have turned out. So, what did you think about this when this broke this week?
I thought it was great news. I mean, we're Disney again, paving the way, moving things forward. We have an equal split right now.
Yeah.
So 50-50. There's a woman on one side, there's a man on the other, and hopefully they'll work well together and create great projects. And I think it's a great idea, and especially who they let go and what the allegations are for why he was let go.
Yeah.
I think they couldn't have made a better choice.
Absolutely. And for people who know the brand,
Yeah.
you made it was the right decision going forward. And people who take the brand seriously, near and dear to their heart, and that I still believe that with these 2 folks in place, it was sort of kind of the way I felt when George Lucas asked Kathleen Kennedy to take over Lucasfilms. I was like, you know what, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, if ever a woman deserved that and has her ups and downs, but knows genre like that, perfect. And I think these 2 are so entrenched in Pixar that going forward, even the non-Pixar movies.
That's what I was going to say,
they're
like
gonna
Frozen.
Right.
Right. So like Frozen itself, I mean, she's directing the sequel to that.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I mean, that has become the biggest movie, one of the biggest movies they've ever released.
You're right.
I
the
mean,
non-Pixar.
and they have a Broadway show now,
Huge.
and there's a show in the
Which
theme
is apparently
parks.
very, very good.
I heard.
Yeah,
great
very
things.
good. Yeah, I've seen great reviews from
I think it's a
So-
great choice
Yeah.
moving forward because they just know, they have a familiarity with the brand and they can protect it the best way possible.
And I think also one thing they really appear to be doing in Pixar, and they do embrace a lot of diversity, and I
Yes.
think that does breed storytelling is something that we continually refer to back on the show. It does bring in a lot of really interesting stories and from personal experience and folklore, and I think what will change the dynamic in a positive way is because it's going to be two people. Sometimes two heads are better than one. I'm not a big fan of like writing rooms with 15 people in them. I think that's too much. But I think when you've got two people, it's really good to have that dialogue, and they're going to bring two very different but very connected ways of thinking together, which I think is great. Having been to Pixar, just being in that environment, it is so unbelievably inclusive and supportive and creative, and it is an environment where you hear them talking about, oh, we share ideas and blah, blah, blah. It really is an open book at Pixar. You could be, very low level, but if you've got a really good idea and you can pitch it into them, they will listen to that idea. A lot of people have come up through Pixar over the years, and they've just had a really good idea, and they've written the code. Okay, run with this.
Yeah, and I don't
Create
think
this story.
That's not going
Create
to change.
The look. No,
right.
Because those
that's
people
still going to be there.
And since almost day one, these people have been there.
Yeah.
So they know the culture, and they're familiar with it, and they're not gonna. You don't fix what ain't broken.
Yeah.
So and really it really ain't broken, especially when you look at Coco. What's going to happen with Incredibles this week, or last weekend? They're going full steam ahead, and you have the two right people to do it and continue on and continue success.
Yeah, I think it was really good, and I think also because you've got a man and a woman sharing it, I think it's really good because then you don't open yourself up to, oh, it's another man. You don't open yourself. It's like, oh, you're being PC because it's a woman. Because it's both.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I think it's a really savvy way for them to build that structure and go, let's just do it this way. It's different. And I think their strength is about being different. Right. The stories they tell are very different.
And
I think this is running through. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, something we mentioned at the top of the show. Let's talk about Gotti marketing debacle this week and the backlash from that. Gotti, of course, was released in theaters, wasn't shown to a lot of people before it was released. Got a 0% score on Rotten Tomatoes, which is pretty much as rotten as you can get. And then there was backlash this week from the people who were behind Gotti to basically say, well, the critics didn't love it. Why don't you prove them wrong? And audience scores were better than 0. But
that is also, if I read correctly, too, also in contention.
Absolutely. I was just about to get to that. And box office didn't exactly shine. It was a 1.67 million. Which was really way below. I mean, it was made for, I think, $10 million, which is not, it's going to be very difficult for that to even wipe its face. A lot of people didn't even know this movie was coming out. I mean, the marketing was, I was literally driving past signs going like, oh, when's this coming out? And it was coming out that day.
Yes, that happens a lot here in LA.
Yeah,
that's what they call pop-up marketing.
I was just
Netflix,
so surprised.
Netflix take watch. I mean, Netflix does it all the time. Like, there's like, what's this? There's a new billboard out for a show.
But
what
it's,
is
I mean,
this?
even,
I never heard
but there are things
before.
that are advertised even less than Gotti. I mean, I didn't see
Oh my
any.
God.
Hotel Artemis was a great movie recently,
yeah.
and I literally saw no advertising for that in public. But let's get back
How
to
about
Gotti.
Hearts Beat Loud? Nothing.
No,
nothing.
and apparently a great product.
Yeah, it is great.
But yeah, there was a lot of pushback from the guys behind Gotti this week, really attacking critics, really attacking the industry. And obviously, as someone who works on both, I do critical work and I do a lot of editorial. The big problem for me is I had nothing on this movie. I had no invites to screenings. I had no idea who was going to be behind this movie. And certainly editorially, I mean, there was nothing that came through that way. I saw John Travolta pop up on a couple of the major talk shows, but that was kind of it.
Yes.
The movie has a sort of history, too.
It's kind of like opening a shop and then not telling anybody it's open and then complaining when nobody comes through on opening day. It's really weird.
Yeah, like I said, there is a sordid history to this, and I'm not going to name names, but it was produced by a particular studio. It was not meant to go... what's the word I'm looking for? Specifically theatrical. It was going to be one of those on-demand day-and-date releases. The producers of the movie, along with Travolta, felt that they had something better. There were recuts. They wanted to bring it into Cannes. The original people that were going to release it were saying, you know what, that's really not a good idea. So the producers of Gotti more or less bought the movie back.
Right.
So it got out of that studio's hand. That studio made their money. And then they made a deal with MoviePass. They were going to have a distribution deal where they were going to have an independent booker who was going to book it into some theaters. They did take it to Cannes. It got eviscerated at Cannes, which does a movie no good.
No.
You had MoviePass invested some money, and they were all like, I think they were just there because they could say that they were in Cannes. But this movie got eviscerated. There was no real want for this movie to go theatrical, and it suffered a couple of recuts, a lot of drastic recuts. And I had heard that at one point the movie was really good, and it did showcase Travolta's talent, but I guess they had recut it so many various times.
But I mean, you talk about MoviePass. Apparently, MoviePass members, and this is something that's been reported in a number of places, including Deadline. MoviePass members accounted for about 40% of the take as well. Now, if you're owned by someone like MoviePass, and I'm a MoviePass member, and I got one marketing email about this last week, this just got completely lost for me. If you can't even get 50% of your audience to turn out, who are effectively like, I get this for free.
And I find that the 40% could be somewhat suspect.
Well, I mean, and the audiences apparently gave it 78% thanks to 6,900 users. But also there's a lot of speculation around that, around how many of these are actually reviews from real people, how many are fixed. And, you know, sometimes in the industry, when you launch a product, whether it's an app or something else, you get friends of friends to comment on stuff and leave really nice reviews, and, you know, whether it's on Yelp. So that
this does not happen.
But
you're blowing my mind right now.
What?
This does not happen.
I mean, that's of course when we're not being paid by Disney, of course, obviously.
Oh my God! Don't tell
George
me this is
Soros.
This changes everything. This changes. I give up.
No, but it's true.
Sometimes the studios will even have their people comment on.
But also, do you know what? Even there'll be members of the audience who will, because they love a franchise or a film, they will put particularly extravagant things. It's almost like some critics make up quotes to get on
fake
posters.
Twitter accounts.
That is shocking.
You know what? Oh my God.
Shocking.
Well, they're not fake. They're just done by a publicity company.
But yeah, so you have
to.
So we have to take sort of all of these factors into account. But also, I mean, a lot of people have been sort of, even members of the public have been responding on Twitter and saying people would go in, the movie theaters would be mostly empty, people would be walking out of screenings, people would be laughing or heckling. So,
am I the only one who found this really funny? In all seriousness,
I just found it deeply weird
because it was like the way that it came out was like that ad was like, "Are you going to listen to trolls behind the keyboard?" It's like, who are you talking about here? Is it the critics? Is it the fans? Who is it? Who's the troll behind the keyboard? Because everyone is.
But also, are these the same
Fake
people?
news, yeah.
Are they not trolls when they like a movie?
Right,
that you put
exactly.
Out? Like, you know, you couldn't embrace people when they liked American Animals a couple of weeks ago. No. That was like, everything's amazing, everybody thinks it's great, blah, blah, blah. And all of a sudden, those same people who didn't like the next movie are trolls. It's like, don't shit where you eat.
No.
Don't shit where you eat, industry, because that's not...
Dare I say it's somewhat Trumpian?
Well, it's just a really weird...
It fits.
It's like, and again, this is a movie, given what it's originally
Gotti, we're
supposed
talking
to do.
about Gotti.
No,
someone asked. That's why.
We're talking about Gotti and not Gaudy.
Gotti. Well, I'm sorry that I'm from the East Coast, and that's how I say it.
That's how I say it. So Gotti. So it's just, had it stayed with its original course, with the people who knew how to do this sort of thing, they probably would have gotten more views on demand. It would have had its, 2025 theater release. And John Travolta would have, people would have said, hey, he's really good in this. And they probably would have gotten more interest.
Yeah,
Instead of going to Cannes, you can't go to things like that with a movie, even if it's mediocre.
But going back to the point about
maybe that's what hurt Star Wars.
Well, going back to the point, this originally going to be, VOD. That was not originally, but it was certainly at some point. There are movies that were originally going to go to VOD that can hit theaters, and if you do the right level of promotion and you put it out there and you make talent available and you screen it for people, 47 Meters Down is one I was thinking about, the Mandy Moore shark movie.
Yes.
That was almost cast out into VOD. That actually turned a really tidy profit for that company.
For Entertainment Studios.
For Entertainment
It
Studios.
was their launch movie.
And I think it's been their biggest one to date. To
it
be honest with you,
absolutely
'cause
has.
Hostiles, Hurricane Heist haven't really done much.
They're making a sequel to it. Another 47 meters down.
And can I? But the thing is, let's compare it to Hurricane Heist again for this company. Hurricane Heist was a movie that they chose not to screen for critics, and it didn't do very well. It did okay. It didn't do very well. But everybody I know, or the majority of the people I know who are critics or certainly work in editorial in the industry, who have seen it since it's hit home entertainment, are like, this isn't shit.
Yeah.
This is good fun. And I really think they kind of shot themselves in the foot a little bit by keeping this so closeted, because any people out there who were going to go, actually, this is fine, who'll push these scores up. And there will be people who will like movies that many other people think are bad. Sure. That's going to inevitably happen. And I think they kind of missed a trick on that. If they'd have embraced critics with Gotti, you might have, not guaranteed, you might have increased that score a little bit. And that little bit of word of mouth, those couple of 3 or 4 star reviews from even people who would like, I just want to get on the poster. Even those would have helped you bring a bit more money than 1.67 million.
A little.
You know. Okay, we've got a lot to get through, so let's just very quickly check back in the chat. People are talking about some interesting suggestions, actually. It's not entirely correct, but I think it was Jack Dennis just saying in the chat about they've not Disney Pixar, going back to that, they've not spent millions already on Toy Story 4. Jack would say cancel it and focus on The Incredibles as their long-term franchise. Toy Story 4, they haven't started promoting that yet, but that's a done deal. Nothing is going to happen with that. That is going to be a massive movie. That is going to be very easily $1 billion.
And that's going to be a masterpiece.
Fingers crossed it'll be a masterpiece. But that is done and dusted. This is coming out. They're not promoting it now because they want to leave room, quite rightly, for products like The Incredibles 2. You couldn't get people to talk about Toy Story 4 really on the press tour for this. It was like, we're going to get to that. Let's talk about this movie here. Let's not cannibalize our own audience by trying to muddy it with too many products of the same house, which is a wise thing to do. So, I mean, no, that Toy Story 4 is not going anywhere. Toy Story 4 is going to be one of the biggest movies of next year, hands down.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to do Incredibles numbers. It's going to do, Finding Nemo, Finding Dory level numbers. So this is, that is not, with all due respect, Jack, that is not, that shit's not getting cancelled. Okay, let's very quickly run through a few other stories of the week, and then we're going to get to trailers and box office, because we're very quickly running out of time. They're making another Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie, a Paramount.
Okay. I actually like the second one more than I like the first one.
I'm exactly the same, although I wouldn't give it more than like 2.5 to 3 stars.
I gave it like a 6 out of 10.
Yeah.
It
wasn't terrible.
It showed potential.
Yeah.
So I was bummed people didn't see it. But then it also, going back to the fans and going back to supporters.
Do you know who was originally meant to direct that movie, or certainly spoken to about that? Paul King.
Oh,
Paul King, after Paddington, he had conversations with Paramount about that. So.
But what I was going to say is that going back to fans and everything like that, it's amazing because how disappointed fans were with the first Ninja Turtles.
Yeah.
And how bad the second one did, even though almost everyone who I know said it was a step in the right direction.
It was a step certainly more in the right direction,
right. But no one went to see it.
Staying with Paramount, Optimus Prime could get his own solo Transformers spin-off following Bumblebee.
Don't count your chickens before they hatch.
I'm not exactly waiting for that one, but do you know what? Out of all the Transformers and the Transformers movies, I'd like to see Optimus Prime. I mean, a lot of the other Transformers are actually pretty forgettable characters.
Sure, except for Bumblebee.
Apart from Bumblebee and Optimus Prime, and obviously Megatron's, nothing's going to happen there. But do you know what? If it happened, wouldn't be the worst thing. But I don't know if it's going to happen. I do think Bumblebee is actually going to do quite well.
I think so too.
I was very snippy about that originally, but I'm
saw
on
the
board
trailer
with
on
that.
Incredibles too. I saw it on the big screen.
Yeah,
it really had there was a resonance in that audience for it.
Kick-Ass 3 won't feature Chloe Grace Moretz's Hit Girl if it ever gets made. I know that she didn't particularly have a great experience with Kick-Ass 2. That was not a film that was as well received as the original movie. That doesn't surprise me. Should we have a Kick-Ass 3? I'm fine leaving it where it is.
Without her, no.
Yeah.
Because I feel like even though the second one wasn't as good as the first one, she's what made that movie. Yeah. So, and she made the first one in a lot of ways too. So without her, no.
Yeah, and if just to go back to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles again, No, just let it go. And Kick-Ass 3, let it go.
Well, people are saying in the chat, actually, Harris is saying, I'm up for a Ninja Turtle reboot, absolutely. Origin story, potentially. I was like, yeah, cool. But from the same people that gave it just 2 movies, I don't know. Gave us those 2 movies, sorry. I would love it. This is from Xeno Hour. I would love a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles based on the original comics, which wouldn't happen. Yeah, I don't think that would happen.
Nope.
Sky Patterson, I'm interested in a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles reboot, based it off of the original comics. Go for the dark sci-fi horror film. Do you know what? I would love that if someone like Blumhouse came in and started to take that on.
Yes.
Do you know?
I was
in black
wondering
and
if it was
white?
going to come back.
I'm just saying,
Yes,
maybe that
yeah.
could be a thing, but I don't think they're obviously going to do that with Paramount. But if they were going to do that, I mean, those guys are, nailing shit right now. So we'll see. Yeah. Sam Mendes returning to directing with, it's not like he left directing. It's just like this is his next movie.
Like, hey, I'm leaving.
He made a movie and then he didn't make any movies, and now he's making another movie. So that's like, I'm going back to lunch today. It's like, I had lunch yesterday, I'm having lunch today. Anyway, he's returning to directing with World War I film 1917 for Amblin.
Yeah.
Could be quite interesting.
Absolutely.
Could be his Dunkirk.
Yeah.
Sure.
I do like Sam Mendes as a director, and obviously now he's not obviously doing Bond. That could be quite interesting. So, okay, let's talk about trailers. A couple of trailers this week. Not a huge amount.
No, it's so light compared to last week.
So light. I actually had to look around for these. Okay, Welcome to Marwin was one that really caught my eyes. Going back to Bob Zemeckis, we talked about earlier in the show. I didn't know really much about this movie or anything about this story until I saw this trailer, and it instantly had me. It has straight gone on to one of my most anticipated movies of the year. Did you have the same response?
I had the exact same reaction. Did you ever see the documentary? It's also on Netflix.
I haven't.
I
knew nothing about this story.
It's fascinating. So check it out. Marwin Call, it's called. This just looks. I saw like 2. I want to say that it was about 10 seconds into the trailer for this movie, and I'm like, sold. Like, I didn't even want to watch. Like, I stopped at about a minute in, and I'm like, I don't even know if I want to watch the rest of this trailer. I'm that excited for this movie, and I don't want anything to be ruined about this movie.
It's very rare. Probably like sort of maybe 40, possibly 50% of the time that a trailer will grab me in that way.
It was just
straight off.
It's amazing.
It to me showcased the power of what cinema can be.
Yes.
Let's show you. Let's really do something different. Let's do something engaging. Let's do it with emotion. Let's do it with heart. And if anybody is able to pull that off, it's Zemeckis. He wrote the screenplay, which is great. It's fine. He's going back and writing. The character just seems. Look, it's just a trailer, so not to overhype, but being that this is coming in November, I think.
Yeah.
It's right at the height of Academy season.
Instantly to me, I was like, this, if it's good, is potentially Oscar nominee stuff.
Because
in so many
different.
categories.
Yeah,
Yes.
and I love the dynamic cast.
Yes.
And it just looked special.
Yeah, it really did.
Special.
And very different to what is out there right now.
Right. I mean, Steve Carell this is one actor who I feel can pretty much do everything.
Yeah.
He started off in comedy. I thought he was going to get pigeonholed into that genre.
Yeah.
But he's done so many different roles over the years. Like Last Flag Flying, his role in that movie, he was the best.
Phenomenal.
He was the best part of that movie.
Grossly underseen movie.
Oh my God, he was
Criminally
so good.
underseen.
And between this one, he has this movie coming out, and then he has Beautiful Boy with Timothée Chalamet.
Yeah.
This is going to be his year. I'm calling it right now,
But
guys.
I think another person who's known predominantly for their comedic stuff, Melissa McCarthy.
Yep.
I know she's got this movie coming out later in the year as well about the faking of the notes.
Right.
I mean, that to me, again from that trailer, I was like, I really want to see that movie. It looks so strong. So I think it could be quite interesting this year. I mean, certainly A Star Is Born has already been mentioned. Sometimes you find, and last year we kind of struggled a little bit for movies that we thought could potentially be, would it be Oscar winning, which like Wonder Woman and stuff like that. And the field didn't seem to be particularly lush. But I already think we're seeing a couple of really strong contenders coming through this year for very different types of movies.
Yes.
Yeah.
Not thematic or not political or nothing like that, but just really good stories.
Yeah, and they look different. They're giving us something
do.
special.
They do.
And
They do.
I have to shout out to someone who's been a favorite of mine since watching her in Hidden Figures is the
Oh,
Janelle
yeah.
Monáe.
Yeah.
This woman, what a powerhouse.
Yeah.
What
Incredible.
What charisma as an artist, as a performer, as music artist, and then as an actor. I mean, she has such an amazing presence on screen, and then she can do it. And again, the actors in that world, they look even in real life and as the action figure-ish kind of thing. This movie to me just it shouted, I really can't wait to see it. This looks special, it looks different, and it looks like I'm going to be drawn into this world and in ways that I not
And the
normally
fact that
can
it's actually
enjoy.
based on a true story also helps bring it up to another level.
Yeah.
Agreed.
And I think, I mean, she's incredible. I'm glad you brought her up. She's remarkable in Hidden Figures.
Remarkable actress, remarkable talent.
Hidden Figures is a great movie.
I think this is going to be the potential. But another interesting thing I wanted to note was this is the second movie for Universal this year because they're doing First Man as well.
Yes.
So they might actually
Which did
have
some test screenings in Los Angeles this week.
just this past week,
Yeah.
right? You hear any buzz about it?
Not yet.
Okay.
Buzz.
I usually hear about
Aldrin?
Well, no, I hear
You
about.
gotta see this movie.
I gotta see it.
It's La La Land in space.
But I mean, it's interesting that Universal has two movies.
Yeah.
That's all I'm going to say.
We need to rattle through a few things,
Sure.
but we're getting some feedback on the fact that Zeno Hour is saying, welcome to Marwin, Hit Me in the Fields, possibly my favorite trailer of the year
Yes.
so far. Walk is one of the best Foo Fighters songs, absolutely, 100%. And Sky Patterson saying Sam Mendes directing 1917, Sky totally on for it. Maybe based it off of the Battle of the Somme or the Treaty of Versailles or the attack on the HMS Irresistible. And then also, and Zeno Hour also saying 1917, a prequel to Wonder Woman 84. Or Wonder Woman.
Well
Yeah, so
played,
it's called
well played.
Wonder Teen. Okay, so the other trailer that I want to talk about very quickly is Creed 2. That dropped this week. I was a big fan of Creed. I don't like all the Rocky movies. I find it was a bit of hit and miss. But Creed 2, I was a big fan of Creed. I like this trailer. I'm not entirely on board yet. I don't know why. I can't put my finger on it. But I'm still intrigued to see it, and I'm still looking forward to it. What did you guys think?
Very similar reaction.
Okay.
I'm into it. I'm going to go see it, obviously.
Yeah.
Loved the first one. Was really surprised by the first one. This one, I'm intrigued, but I'm not like, oh my God, I need to see this right now. It didn't give me that feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the dissenting opinion, I wasn't as big a fan of Creed. I thought it was okay. Tessa Thompson to me was the big standout in that movie. And this movie looks like it's really pandering to the crowd. Drago again. So he's fighting Drago like, his dad killed my dad. Now I gotta go. And I'm like, okay, you're definitely pandering here. I'm not saying that it won't be bad, but it could again, I don't think that Rocky. Where was Drago? He fell in Rocky 4, correct? I think.
I believe so.
Yes.
That was an okay story, but
It's no Superman 4.
Yeah. Well, what could be? That one you should remake because.
Yeah.
But I'm sort of looking. I'll see it. The trailer was like, oh, so we're going to Drago. So they definitely want to pander to the crowd,
Yes.
and I get it.
Jack Dennis, shameful admission, never seen a Rocky movie. That's okay.
Oh, it's okay.
That's okay. They're not going anywhere. You can catch them at some point. Okay, Anthony, can we get 5 minutes? I just want to go through box office.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, cool. You don't seem convinced, but I'll take it. Okay, so one
think
big
you cut
movie
him off
coming out
guard.
this weekend, Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, or Jurassic World Lost Kingdom, as I keep calling it, because it's very similar to the second Jurassic Park movie in so many ways. This is getting some very mixed reaction. Let's look at box office first of all. Thursday night previews 15.3 million, which is down on Jurassic World, but not hugely, just by a couple of million, which is Chump change. 18.5 million Jurassic World previewed with. But obviously, we hadn't had a Jurassic Park movie for well over a decade. So there was different type of anticipation for that. It's only been 3 years since the last one, 2015. Yeah. It's looking at doing a weekend around 130 to 140 million. I could see it doing more the higher end of that. I think potentially maybe 145, but certainly around the 140. But it's already taken 450 million non-domestically, which is a really nice little bed to start off there. That's a nice,
it's a
more
little
cushion for the pushing for the dinos there.
It's 450, and you haven't even gone full on in the States.
Yeah, it's good.
It's a foregone conclusion that they'll do the third.
Yeah. I mean, we know that we know there's another Jurassic World movie coming, and we spoke about this very briefly over breakfast. I honestly believe that with when they did Jurassic World, that they, even though they hadn't announced that it was going to be 3 movies at that point, it was very much they've drafted an arc, they've drafted a story. I mean, this one feels like it does end, but sets up another movie, so it's handled actually really nicely. It feels to me like this was always perceived as a trilogy, always there was going to be an arc, and I think, what, audiences will be there for it. I think this is it's going to do well. I think it's going to be still one of the top 3 movies of the year, potentially. I think it's still around that making that $1 billion mark. As a movie, a lot of people didn't like this. I actually, I had a lot of fun with it. It's a good summer popcorn blockbuster. There were certain elements about it that I didn't quite work for me, but there were other parts. I mean, I'm still torn over the fact whether I would like them to stay on the island for the entire movie, or how I felt about them being taken off the island. And that's not a spoiler. We know that from the trailers. So just in case anybody gets upset that that's a spoiler. But for me, when they did take them off the island and what they did with them, I think they actually did that really, really nicely. And they gave characters to the dinosaurs that we haven't really seen brought into play in this. And not to a point where it became cheesy or chintzy or, fake. I mean, also they're not fucking real. But it didn't make it. I know, sorry about
ruined
that.
the magic.
Fake news. But they didn't. It didn't become totally unbelievable. It was something that was okay. Yeah, gonna go with that.
And it hadn't been done in previous Jurassic Park installments. Lost World tried to, I just say, animalize them, almost like they're cute, like gorillas, and isn't that cute? They tried to do that a little bit, but in the end of the day, it's people running away from dinosaurs.
There's only so much you can do.
Right. And I love it when people are getting eaten. When they get ate by dinosaurs, it's really cool. But this one had a couple of things. It had a little bit more of an emotional beat. It seemed different than the last movie. I actually enjoyed it more than the predecessor. And it took it into a direction. It was a little bit darker than I anticipated. Yeah. And some people, I guess, can call out certain plot points. Oh, it's just silly. I was like, okay, but it makes sense in that world. Yeah. It makes sense. And when you get a little more of the backstory for Hammond and stuff, as a Jurassic Park fan, I was all in, and I was like, okay, I get it. Yeah, that makes sense.
I absolutely love this movie. Right. This is the first time...
We're not hearing a lot of people saying they absolutely love it, so it's nice to get that.
This is... That 1993 original, Steven Spielberg's classic, really changed
Still gives me tingles.
Oh, my God. Mm-hmm. It changed my life, and I feel like that movie, along with The Nightmare Before Christmas, which came out that October, were 2 movies that really had an impact on my childhood, and movies that made me really love and appreciate cinema, made me, use my imagination, made me realize that things can become a reality even though they're fake. And I love that. And when I saw Jurassic Park Lost World, and I saw Jurassic Park 3, and I saw Jurassic World, I did not have that feeling. I did not have... I was happy that these movies were made because we don't get that many dinosaur movies, but at the same time, the magic was gone. And when I watched this movie and I had an emotional attachment to the dinosaurs, that's something that I never felt, even in the 1993 movie. And I feel like where the story is going proves to be a lot different than I expected this franchise to go. And I'm really happy with where it's going. I love that it didn't play by the rule book it's a lot different. You're complaining that they should stay. Maybe they should have stayed on the island. You know, a lot of people felt that way too. But like, I feel like that would just be doing more of the same.
I'm torn over that.
It's doing more of the same. This is like, it's moving forward. This is moving the story forward, and to have humans interact with dinosaurs and kind of develop that storyline about like, can we live as two species together?
Yeah.
I'm really, really intrigued by this concept.
I like the socio-political chaotician debate that it can raise, and that's what makes the movie fun. Again, I don't think
and
it's
there's a
great,
spoiler in the movie though too.
Yeah.
There's a young female actress in this movie, and she has a nice plot twist that I'm not going to ruin for anyone.
Yeah.
But
Which
that
I
also
was different
adds,
to what I was expecting.
and
it
it adds
really
a
nice
layer.
touch. Yeah.
And there's this layer of Chris Pratt's character interacting with Blue, and all these video footage that keeps being shown throughout the movie, and how they're bonding, kind of like a man and his dog.
Absolutely.
There's lots of foreshadowing in this movie, and I'm really excited where it's going to go.
And you said from top to bottom, and it really is. It is a different. For me, it's different too, because even the score was different.
Yeah.
It was very. This is a bit of a spoiler, folks. There's very little Jurassic Park theme in the score of this movie. It's there, but definitely not what it was. And they even, Giacchino doesn't even utilize his Jurassic World suite a lot. This is a different score too.
And I'm going to round this up because we're running out of time, but just to finally have the final word on this and take up your point here, this film for me in many, many ways feels like a handoff from the Jurassic movies that we know, right through from the theme, from the stories, from the narrative, where I think in the next Jurassic movie we're really going to see something completely new and something moving away from everything that we've had in the past. It's a really nice, progressive, clean motion forward with the characters, with the whole way the stories are told and the environments those are told. I think it's done really, really nicely. I know this won't be to everyone's liking, but it's a good. I genuinely came out of that going, that was a good time.
Yeah, and it looks good too.
Oh yeah,
it looks really.
Some of the dinosaurs a little bit every now and again. I was like, I'm not entirely convinced by that.
From a cinematography, standpoint,
there are some really beautiful touches in this, and it certainly licks along like a motherfucker.
It does. I
mean, this pace is tight.
Yeah,
it is good. Okay, Dynamite. So Dynamite. So this, guys, another fantastic week. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, let's start with Scott. Scott, who are you and where can people find you?
Sure. Scott Menzel. You can find me at weliveentertainment.com. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at @theotherscottm. And you can find me on Black Hollywood Live every Sunday at 5 p.m. with Carla Renata, and the show's called Black Tomatoes.
And Demetri.
Hey, Demetri, you can find me on Anatomy of a Movie. If you love movies and breaking them down and dissecting, please check us out. We're on later today. And you can support me on Twitter at DMovies1701. And I appreciate being here with you folks again. I had so much fun talking movies. This is really, this is a great way to start off a Friday. So, again, it's a privilege to always sit in the chair, and thank you for having me. And thank you for enduring me to the audience.
And my name is Simon Thompson. You can find me at Showbiz Simon on Instagram and Twitter, and there's a Facebook page. This is Simon Thompson. Feel free to contact me on that. If you like the show, please like, subscribe, tell everybody you can about this show. Really appreciate it. It's great to talk to you in the comments. Keep it nice and friendly. We do appreciate that. And then a really important point, very finally, someone says, how does Sam Neill and Nora Dern not come back for the next one? In fucking Dee And more Jeff Goldblum. We'll see you next week. Have a great one, everybody.
More Goldblum.
From producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire Popcorn Talk Network, we would like to thank you for tuning in. For questions or comments, be sure to visit popcorntalk.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of the Popcorn Talk Network.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of its owners or principals.